The shuttle docked with a soft hiss, and Danny Cole stepped onto Station Velaris 9 for the first time. He carried a single bag over his shoulder and wore the gray uniform of a new cadet. Around him, aliens of every shape and size moved through the arrival terminal. Some walked on two legs. Others floated. A few crawled along the walls with dozens of tiny limbs. None of them looked at Danny with kindness. He was used to it by now. The Galactic Union had made contact with Earth 5 years ago. In that short time, humanity had gone from thinking they were alone in the universe to learning they were one of thousands of intelligent species spread across the stars. It should have been a moment of celebration. Instead, it had been a rude awakening. The galaxy did not welcome humans. It feared them. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world. The term meant nothing to Danny when he first heard it, but he learned quickly. Most species in the galaxy evolved on peaceful planets with stable climates and gentle ecosystems. Earth was not like that. Earth had hurricanes that could flatten cities, volcanoes that buried entire regions in ash, predators with teeth and claws and venom, diseases that mutated faster than medicine could chase them. And through all of it, humans had survived. They had thrived. They had climbed to the top of the food chain on a world that killed everything else. To the rest of the galaxy. That made humans monsters. Danny walked through the terminal and followed the signs toward the Academy Registration Center. He kept his head up and his eyes forward, but he noticed everything. The way conversations stopped when he passed. The way parents pulled their children closer. The way security officers tracked his movements with their hands near their weapons. He was 19 years old, average height, and had never hurt anyone who did not try to hurt him first. But to these aliens, he was a predator walking among prey. The Galactic Union Military Academy was supposed to be different. It was the most prestigious training facility in known space, accepting only the best cadets from across 100 worlds. Humanity had fought hard for the right to send students here. Politicians had argued. Diplomats had negotiated. In the end, the Union agreed to accept a small number of human cadets on a trial basis. Danny was one of the first. He found the registration center and joined the line. The alien in front of him was a Felici, a species that resembled large cats with 6 legs and golden fur. She glanced back at Danny, and her ears flattened against her skull. She said nothing, but she took a step forward to put more distance between them. Danny pretended not to notice. When his turn came, he approached the desk and handed over his identification chip. The clerk was a Melaran, a species with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. She scanned his chip and looked at the screen. Then she looked at Danny. Then she looked at the screen again. "Human," she said. It was not a question. "Yes," Danny replied. She stared at him for a long moment. Danny waited. Finally, she processed his registration and handed him a datapad with his room assignment, class schedule, and academy rules. "Dormitory Block 7, she said. "Do not cause trouble." Danny took the datapad and walked away without responding. He had learned that arguing with prejudice was pointless. The only way to change minds was through actions, not words. Dormitory Block 7 was on the far side of the station. Danny walked through corridors filled with cadets from dozens of species. He saw Cassians with their forearms and thick gray skin. He saw Threlics with their insect-like bodies and compound eyes. He saw Neburids who existed as clouds of glowing gas contained within mechanical suits. And he saw Vorath. The Vorath were hard to miss. They stood nearly 7 feet tall with scaled skin that ranged from dark green to black. Their eyes were yellow with vertical slits, and their mouths were filled with sharp teeth. They walked with the confidence of a species that had never known fear. A Twat with the confidence of a species that had never known fear. A clear group of 7 Vorath stood near the entrance to dormitory block 7. They watched Danny approach with obvious interest. The largest of them, a male with black scales and gold markings on his face, stepped forward to block the doorway. "So this is the Deathworlder," he said. His voice was deep and carried a tone of amusement. "I expected something more impressive." Danny stopped and looked up at the Varath. The alien was nearly 2 feet taller than him and probably weighed 3 times as much. His claws were long and sharp, and his muscles rippled beneath his scales. "Excuse me," Danny said calmly. "I need to get to my room." The Varath did not move. His companions laughed. "My name is Crix Valen," the Varath said. "My family has served the Union for 12 generations. We were building starships while your species was still living in caves." He leaned down until his face was close to Danny's. "You do not belong here, human. This academy is for civilized species, not animals from death planets." Danny met his gaze without flinching. He had faced bullies before. On Earth, in school, in the military training camps where he had prepared for this opportunity. Crix was bigger and stronger, but Danny had learned long ago that size was not everything. "I am here because I earned my place," Danny said. "Just like everyone else." Crix's eyes narrowed. For a moment, something flickered in his expression. Surprise, perhaps, or confusion. Most species looked away when a Varath stared them down. This human did not. "We will see how long you last," Crix said. He stepped aside and gestured for Danny to pass. "Enjoy your time here, Deathworlder. It will be short." Danny walked past him without another word. He could feel their eyes on his back as he entered the dormitory. He could hear them whispering among themselves. He did not look back. His room was small but clean. A bed, a desk, a storage unit, and a window that looked out at the stars. Danny set his bag down and stood at the window for a long moment. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning through the void. His home, his world, the place that had shaped him into what he was. He thought about Crix and his threats. He thought about the fear in the eyes of every alien he passed. He thought about what it meant to be human in a galaxy that saw his species as monsters. Then he unpacked his bag, organized his belongings, and prepared for his first day of classes. He had not come here to make friends. He had come here to prove that humanity deserved its place among the stars. And he would not let anyone, not even 7 Varath with chips on their shoulders, stop him from achieving that goal. The next morning would bring new challenges. But Danny Cole had survived 19 years on a death world. He could survive this too. Crix Valen sat in his private quarters with his 6 companions gathered around him. The room was large and decorated with banners showing his family crest. Being from a noble house had its advantages, and Crix made sure everyone knew it. "Did you see the way he looked at me?" Crix said. His claws scraped against the table in front of him. "That little creature actually thought he could stare me down." Me, A. Valen. One of his followers, a younger Varath named Dren, nodded eagerly. "Humans have no respect. They think because they survived on their poison world, they are special." "They are nothing," another said. "Small, weak, fragile. I have seen their files. They cannot even regrow lost limbs. One good strike, and they break." Crix stood and walked to the window. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. His family had traveled those stars for generations. They had helped build the Union. They had fought in wars that shaped the galaxy. And now the Union was allowing animals from a death world to train alongside true warriors. It was an insult he could not ignore. "The instructors will protect him," Dren said. "If we attack him openly, we will face punishment." Crix turned and smiled. His teeth gleamed in the light. "Then we will not attack him openly." The days that followed were filled with small cruelties. Crix and his followers made sure Danny felt unwelcome at every turn. They blocked his path in corridors, forcing him to walk around them. They whispered insults just loud enough for him to hear. They spread rumors among the other cadets that humans were cowards who ran from danger and could not be trusted in combat. Danny ignored all of it. He went to his classes, completed his training exercises, and returned to his room without complaint. This only made Crix angrier. The human was supposed to react. He was supposed to get angry, make a mistake, give them a reason to escalate. But Danny Cole moved through the academy like water flowing around rocks. Nothing seemed to touch him. Commander Threll watched the situation develop with interest. She was a Kashan, standing 8 feet tall with 4 muscular arms and skin like gray stone. She had commanded soldiers in 3 wars and trained cadets for 20 years. Very little surprised her anymore, but the human surprised her. She had reviewed his file before he arrived. The classified sections told a story that most cadets would never believe. Humans were not weak. Their small bodies hid strength that exceeded most species in the galaxy. Their endurance was legendary. They could run for hours without stopping, survive injuries that would kill other races, and adapt to environments that should have been lethal. And their minds were sharp. They processed information quickly, learned from mistakes, and never forgot a threat. Threll watched Danny in combat simulations and saw what others missed. He was holding back. His scores were good, but not exceptional, and she suspected that was deliberate. He did not want attention. He did not want to show what he could really do. Smart, she thought. Very smart. One evening, Danny sat alone in the academy cafeteria. Most cadets avoided his table, leaving a ring of empty seats around him. He was used to eating alone. It did not bother him anymore. A tray dropped onto the table across from him, and he looked up to see a young woman with short brown hair and a familiar gray uniform. She was human. Mind if I sit? She asked. Danny shook his head. Go ahead. She sat down and extended her hand. Megan Price, Lunar Colonies. I arrived last week. Danny shook her hand. Danny Cole, Earth. Megan grinned. I know who you are. Everyone knows who you are. The human who stared down Avalon and lived to tell about it. I just asked him to move, Danny said. That is not how the story goes. Megan began eating her meal. The way I heard it, you threatened to tear his throat out with your bare hands. Danny almost smiled. Almost. People exaggerate. People are scared, Megan said. Her voice became serious. And not just of you. The Varath have been watching you, following you. I have seen them whispering whenever you walk by. They are planning something. Danny nodded slowly. He had noticed the same thing. Crix and his followers were not subtle. Their hatred was obvious, and their patience was running thin. You should report them, Megan said. The instructors would put a stop to it. And then what? Danny asked. Every alien in this academy would see that the human ran to authority the moment things got difficult. They would say we are weak, that we cannot handle problems on our own. Better than getting hurt. Danny looked at her steadily. I have been hurt before. I survived. Megan studied him for a long moment. There was something in his eyes that she recognized, a hardness that came from experience. She had seen it in veterans, in survivors, and people who had faced death and walked away changed. Just be careful, she said finally. The Varath are dangerous. So am I, Danny replied quietly. They just do not know it yet. That night, Crix called his followers together for a final meeting. He had grown tired of waiting. The human would not break on his own. He needed to be broken. There are maintenance tunnels beneath the dormitories, Crix said. He pulled up a map on his datapad and showed it to the others. No cameras. No patrols. No witnesses. How do we get him there? Dren asked. Crix smiled. We send him a message. Tell him his training gear has been moved to Storage Bay 7 due to a scheduling error. He will go to retrieve it, and we will be waiting." The others nodded eagerly. 7 Vorath against 1 small human. It would be over in seconds. When? Someone asked. "Tomorrow," Crick said. "After evening training. The tunnels will be empty, and everyone will be in their rooms." He looked around at his companions. "We will teach this Deathworlder what happens when you disrespect your betters. By the time we are finished, he will beg to leave this academy." The plan was set. The trap was ready. Crix went to sleep that night feeling satisfied. Tomorrow, the human would learn his place. He did not know that across the station, Commander Threll was sitting in her office, reviewing security reports. She had noticed the Vorath gathering. She had seen the way they looked at the human cadet. She knew something was coming, but she did not intervene. Some lessons, she believed, could only be learned through experience. And she was curious to see what the Deathworlder would do when cornered. The galaxy thought it understood humans. They were wrong. Tomorrow, 7 Vorath would discover just how wrong they were. The message arrived on Danny's datapad during evening training. He read it while the other cadets packed up their equipment and headed for the showers. The words were simple. His training gear had been moved to Storage Bay 7 in the lower tunnels due to a scheduling conflict. He should retrieve it before morning. Danny read the message twice. Then he deleted it and continued packing his bag. He knew it was a trap. The timing was too convenient. The wording was too formal, lacking the codes and signatures that official Academy communications always included. And he had noticed Crix watching him all day with a look of barely contained excitement. The Vorath that were clever. They thought Danny was stupid. They were wrong on both counts. Danny considered his options as he walked back to his dormitory. He could ignore the message and stay in his room. The Vorath would wait in the tunnels for nothing, and eventually they would give up. But that would only delay the confrontation. Crix was not the type to accept failure. He would try again and again until he got what he wanted. Danny could report the message to Academy security. Commander Threll would investigate, and the Vorath would face punishment. But that option came with costs. Every alien in the Academy would see that the human needed protection. They would whisper that Earth sent cowards to represent them. The next human cadets to arrive would face even more hostility. Or Danny could walk into the trap and end this himself. He thought about it for exactly 3 seconds before making his decision. That evening, Danny ate his dinner alone as usual. Megan was not in the cafeteria. He was grateful for that. She would have tried to stop him, and he did not want to explain what he was about to do. When the meal was finished, Danny returned to his room and changed into plain training clothes. He did not bring any weapons. The Academy had strict rules about personal arms, and besides, he did not need them. He stretched for 10 minutes, warming up his muscles and loosening his joints. Then he left his room and headed for the maintenance tunnels. The entrance was in the basement of Dormitory Block 7. A heavy door marked with warning signs led to a stairwell that descended into the lower levels of the station. Danny pushed the door open and stepped through. The tunnels were dark and narrow. Emergency lights glowed at regular intervals, casting pools of dim red illumination that left deep shadows between them. The air was cooler down here, and the constant hum of the station's machinery created a background noise that swallowed smaller sounds. Danny moved carefully. His footsteps were silent on the metal floor. His breathing was slow and controlled. His heart rate remained steady. He had trained for moments like this. On Earth, military candidates went through exercises designed to simulate ambush scenarios. They learned to control their fear, to stay calm under pressure, to think clearly when everything around them was chaos. Fear was just a chemical reaction. It could be managed. It could be used. The tunnels branched and twisted, but Danny followed the signs towards Storage Bay 7. He passed equipment lockers, power conduits, and ventilation shafts. He saw no one. The lower levels were empty at this hour, just as Crix had planned. Danny reached a junction where 4 corridors met. A larger space opened up here, probably used for maintenance vehicles or equipment storage. The ceiling was higher, and the shadows were deeper. It was a perfect place for an ambush. He stopped in the center of the junction and waited. For a moment, nothing happened. The machinery hummed. The lights flickered. Danny stood perfectly still, his arms relaxed at his sides. His weight balanced on the balls of his feet. Then the Vorath emerged from the shadows. They came from all 4 corridors, 2 from each direction, surrounding Danny in a circle of scales and claws and teeth. Crix stepped forward from the largest group, his yellow eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "The Deathworlder actually came," he said. "I thought you might be too smart for that. Or too scared." Danny said nothing. He watched the Vorath take their positions around him. 7 in total, just as he expected. They were big and strong and confident. They thought they had already won. "Nothing to say?" Crix asked. He spread his arms wide. "No threats? No begging? Your species is supposed to be clever. Surely you understand what is about to happen." "I understand," Danny said quietly. Crix tilted his head. "Then why did you come? You could have stayed in your room. You could have reported us. Instead, you walked right into our trap." Danny looked at each of the Vorath in turn. He studied their positions, their stances, the way they held themselves. He noted which ones were nervous and which ones were eager. He calculated distances and angles and timing. "I came because this needed to end," Danny said. "You have been following me for weeks, watching me, threatening me. I am tired of it." Crix laughed. The sound echoed off the metal walls. "You are tired of it? Little human, you have no idea what tired feels like. But you will. When we are finished with you, you will be too tired to walk, too tired to crawl. You will drag yourself to the infirmary and tell them you fell down some stairs, and then you will pack your bags and go back to your death planet where you belong." The other Vorath laughed with him. They flexed their claws. They bared their teeth. They were ready. Danny took a slow breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. His heart rate dropped. His vision sharpened. The world seemed to slow down around him as his body prepared for what was coming. "I am only going to say this once," Danny said. His voice was calm and flat. "Walk away. Go back to your rooms. Forget this ever happened. If you do that, we can all pretend tonight never occurred." Crix stared at him. Then he started laughing again. "You are giving us a chance to walk away? 7 of us against 1 of you?" "Yes," Danny said. The laughter died. Crix's eyes narrowed. For just a moment, something flickered in his expression. Doubt, uncertainty. The human was not afraid. He was not running. He was not begging. He was standing in the middle of 7 Vorath warriors and offering them a chance to retreat. That it made no sense. One of the younger Vorath shifted nervously. "Crix, maybe we should—" "Silence," Crix snapped. He fixed his gaze on Danny. "You think you can scare us with words? You think because you survived on your poison world, you are dangerous? You are nothing. You are small and weak and alone." Danny met his gaze without blinking. "I gave you a chance, and I am giving you one last moment of peace," Crix said. He stepped forward and extended his claws. "Enjoy it. It will be your last." The circle tightened. The Vorath moved closer, cutting off any chance of escape. Danny remained motionless in the center, watching, waiting. Then Crix lunged, and everything changed. Crix moved fast. For a creature his size, his speed was impressive. His claws sliced through the air where Danny's throat had been a fraction of a second earlier. But Danny was no longer there. He had stepped to the side at the last possible moment, letting Crix's momentum carry him past. As the Vorath stumbled forward, Danny's hand shot out and struck a precise point beneath his jaw. It was a nerve cluster that most species shared, a weak point that the Vorath's thick scales could not protect. Crix's eyes went wide. His legs folded beneath him. He collapsed to the ground without making a sound. 1 second. The other Vorath froze. Their leader was down, unconscious before he even knew what happened. For a heartbeat, they could not process what they had seen. The human had moved too fast. The strike had been too precise. This was not how the fight was supposed to go. Danny did not give them time to recover. He spun toward the nearest Vorath on his left, a young male who was still staring at Crix's fallen body. Danny closed the distance in 2 steps and grabbed the alien's outstretched arm. He twisted, using leverage instead of strength, and the Vorath's elbow bent in a direction it was never meant to go. The crack of breaking bone echoed through the tunnel. The Vorath screamed and fell to his knees, clutching his ruined arm. 2 seconds. The remaining 5 attacked together. They had finally overcome their shock, and they lunged at Danny from all sides. But Danny was already moving, sliding between them, using the narrow corridor to his advantage. They were big and strong, but they could not all reach him at once. Their size worked against them, making them slow and clumsy in the tight space. Danny ducked under a swinging claw and drove his fist into the attacker's stomach. Vorath had thick muscles there, but Danny knew exactly where to hit. His knuckles found the soft spot between the scales, and the alien doubled over with a grunt of pain. Before he could recover, Danny grabbed his head and brought it down to meet his rising knee. The Vorath dropped like a stone. 3 seconds. Another Vorath came at him from behind. Danny heard the footsteps and spun, catching the incoming arm and redirecting the force. He used the alien's own momentum to throw him into the wall. The impact was loud, and the Vorath slumped to the ground, dazed and groaning. 4 seconds. 3 Vorath remained standing. They hesitated, looking at their fallen companions, looking at each other, looking at the human who stood calmly in the center of the carnage. Danny was not even breathing hard. There was no anger on his face, no excitement, no fear. He looked like someone completing a routine task. "Stop," one of them said. His voice cracked. "Just stop." Danny looked at him. "You can still walk away." The Vorath glanced at his companions. For a moment, it seemed like they might actually retreat. But then the largest of the remaining 3, a male with dark green scales, roared and charged. Danny sighed. He sidestepped the charge, grabbed the Vorath's tail as he passed, and yanked backward. The alien lost his balance and crashed to the floor. Before he could rise, Danny dropped his elbow onto the back of his neck. Not hard enough to kill, but hard enough to end the fight. The Vorath went limp. 5 seconds. The last 2 Vorath backed away. Their eyes were wide with terror. They had come here expecting to beat a helpless human. Instead, they had watched their friends get dismantled by someone who moved like smoke and hit like thunder. "Please," one of them whispered. "Please, we did not. We were just—" Danny walked toward them slowly. They stumbled backward until they hit the wall. There was nowhere left to run. "You were just what?" Danny asked. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. "You were just going to teach me a lesson? Put me in my place? Show the Deathworlder that he does not belong here?" They could not answer. They could barely breathe. Danny stopped in front of them. He was so much smaller than they were. His head barely reached their chests. But in that moment, he seemed larger than anything they had ever faced. "On my world," Danny said, "children learn to fight before they learn to read. We have to, because on Earth, everything is trying to kill you. The weather, the animals, the plants, even the bacteria. My species survived for 200,000 years on a planet that should have wiped us out. Do you know how we did it? They shook their heads. We adapted, Danny said. We learned. We became the most dangerous thing on our world. Not because we are big or strong or fast, but because we never give up. We never stop fighting. And we never forget a threat. He reached out and tapped one of them on the chest, right above the heart. The Varth flinched as if he had been stabbed. I could have killed all of you, Danny said. Every single one. In 7 seconds, I could have ended 7 lives. But I did not. Do you know why? They waited, trembling. Because killing you would prove them right, Danny said. Everyone who thinks humans are monsters. Everyone who thinks we are animals that should never have left our planet. If I killed you, they would say that is what humans do. That is all we know. He lowered his hand. But we are more than that. We choose mercy even when we do not have to. That is what makes us human. He stepped back. Go, he said. Take your friends to the infirmary. Tell them you fell during training. Tell them whatever you want. But remember this night. Remember that you came here to break me, and I let you walk away. 6 seconds. The 2 Vorith scrambled to gather their fallen companions. They dragged and carried them toward the exit, not daring to look back. Danny stood alone in the junction, surrounded by drops of blood and the groans of the slowly recovering wounded. 7 seconds. Security drones arrived a few minutes later, summoned by the noise. Their lights swept across the scene, recording everything. Danny raised his hands to show he was not a threat. Cadet Cole, a mechanical voice said. Report. Danny lowered his hands. 7 Varth cadets attempted to assault me. I defended myself. None of them are dead. The drone processed this information. Remain here. Academy security has been notified. Danny nodded and sat down on a nearby crate. He was finally starting to feel the adrenaline fade. His hands trembled slightly, a delayed reaction to the violence. He clasped them together to make the shaking stop. He did not regret what he had done. The Vorith had made their choice, and they had faced the consequences. But he wished it had not been necessary. He wished they had listened when he gave them the chance to walk away. They never listen, he thought. They see a small human and think they understand. They do not realize that on a death world, the most dangerous predators are rarely the largest. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Danny looked up to see Commander Threll approaching, her 4 arms folded across her chest. She looked down at him with an expression he could not read. 7 Varth, she said. In 7 seconds. Danny said nothing. Threll nodded slowly. I reviewed the security footage from the adjacent corridors. The ambush was planned. The message was traced to Crix Valen's personal terminal. She paused. You knew it was a trap. Yes, Danny said. And you went anyway. Yes. Threll studied him for a long moment. Then, for the first time since Danny had arrived at the academy, she smiled. Welcome to the Galactic Union Military Academy, Cadet Cole, she said. I think you are going to fit in just fine. The investigation took 2 days. Academy security reviewed every piece of evidence, interviewed every witness, and reconstructed the events of that night in the maintenance tunnels. The conclusion was clear and undeniable. Krix. Valen and his 6 companions had planned and executed an ambush against a fellow cadet. They had lured Danny Cole into the tunnels with a false message. They had surrounded him with the intent to cause serious harm. And they had failed completely. The disciplinary hearings were swift. Crix and 2 of his closest followers faced expulsion. They had organized the attack, sent the false message, and shown no remorse during questioning. The Academy had 0 tolerance for premeditated violence, and their careers as military cadets were, over before they truly began. The remaining 4 received suspensions of varying lengths. They would be allowed to return eventually, but only after completing mandatory rehabilitation training and proving they understood why their actions were wrong. None of them argued. None of them complained. They had seen what the human could do, and they wanted nothing more than to put the entire incident behind them. Crix's family tried to intervene. House Valen was powerful, with connections throughout the Union government. They sent representatives to the Academy, demanding that the charges be dropped and their son be reinstated. They argued that the human had provoked the confrontation. They claimed the fight had been unfair, that Danny had used forbidden techniques, that the entire situation was a misunderstanding. The Academy leadership listened politely and then refused. The evidence was too clear. The footage was too damning. And privately, several high-ranking officials made it known that pressing the matter would only bring more attention to Crix's disgrace. House Valen quietly withdrew their protests and recalled their representatives. Crix was shipped home in shame. His dreams of military glory shattered. News of the incident spread through the Academy like fire through dry grass. Within hours, every cadet knew what had happened. 7 Vorath had ambushed the human. 7 Vorath had been defeated in 7 seconds. The Deathworlder had walked away without a scratch. The stories grew with each telling. Some said Danny had moved so fast he became invisible. Others claimed he had broken bones with a single touch. A few whispered that he had let the Vorath live only because he wanted them to spread the word about what happened to those who threatened. Humans. Danny ignored the rumors. He went to his classes, completed his training, and kept to himself as much as possible. But he noticed the change in how others treated him. Cadets who had avoided him before now stepped aside with nods of respect. Instructors who had watched him with suspicion now looked at him with something closer to curiosity. The fear was still there, but it was mixed with something new. 1 week after the incident, Megan found Danny in the observation deck. It was his favorite spot on the station, a large room with windows that looked out at the endless stars. He came here when he needed to think, when he needed to remember why he was doing this. "You have been avoiding me," Megan said as she sat down beside him. "I have been busy," Danny replied. "Liar," she smiled to soften the word. "You have been hiding. You do not want to talk about what happened." Danny was quiet for a moment. Outside the window, a transport ship drifted past, its lights blinking against the darkness. "I did not want to hurt them," he said finally. "I gave them a chance to walk away. They did not take it." "They were going to hurt you," Megan said. "You had every right to defend yourself. I know." Danny's voice was tired. "But I keep thinking about the look on their faces. When they realized what was happening, when they understood they were going to lose. They were terrified, Megan. They thought I was going to kill them, but you did not." "No, I did not." He turned to look at her. "And that is the only thing that lets me sleep at night. I could have killed them. Part of me wanted to. They had been making my life miserable for weeks, and when they attacked me, I had every excuse to end them. But I chose mercy instead." Megan was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached out and took his hand. "That is what makes you different," she said. "That is what makes humanity different. We have the strength to destroy, but we choose not to. We are dangerous, yes, but we are not monsters." Danny squeezed her hand gratefully. He did not have the words to respond, but he did not need them. She understood. In her private office, Commander Thrall reviewed Danny's file one more time. She had watched the footage of the fight dozens of times now. Each viewing revealed something new. A subtle shift in stance. A precise calculation of distance. A perfect economy of motion that spoke to years of training and natural talent. She opened a new document and began typing her assessment. Cadet Daniel Cole has demonstrated exceptional abilities in close quarters combat. His reflexes exceed standard human parameters. His tactical awareness is remarkable. His restraint under pressure suggests psychological stability and moral clarity that are rare in cadets of any species. She paused, considering her next words carefully. Recommend immediate placement in advanced combat training program. Further recommend that Cadet Cole be assigned a mentor who can help him develop his skills to their full potential. Additional note: the galaxy is not ready for what humanity will become. Cadet Cole is proof that humans are not the primitive savages our intelligence reports suggested. They are something far more dangerous. They are predators who have learned to wear the mask of civilization. And the most terrifying part is that they actually believe in it. The Vara thought they were teaching a lesson. Instead, they were taught one. Humanity does not survive by being the strongest or the fastest. They survive by being the most adaptable, the most persistent, and the most willing to do whatever is necessary to protect their own. I suspect this is only the beginning. She saved the document and closed the file. Outside her window, the stars continued their endless dance, indifferent to the small dramas playing out aboard the station. The next morning, Danny walked through the academy corridors on his way to class. He moved with the same quiet confidence he had always shown, but now the other cadets reacted differently. They nodded as he passed. They made room for him. A few even smiled. A young Felicity fell into step beside him. She was the same one who had flinched away from him at registration on his first day. "I wanted to say something," she said nervously. "About what happened?" Danny looked at her. "Yes? My brother was bullied when he was younger. By Vorath, actually. They made his life miserable, and no one ever stopped them." She met his eyes. "But you stopped them. You showed everyone that they are not invincible, that they cannot just hurt people without consequences." Danny did not know what to say. He had not fought the Vorath to be a hero. He had fought them because he had no other choice. "Thank you," the Felicity said. "From me and from everyone else who's afraid to stand up to them." She hurried away before he could respond. Danny watched her go, feeling something warm and unfamiliar in his chest. Pride, maybe. Or hope. He thought about Earth, about the billions of humans who would never know his name or what he had done, about the future cadets who would come to this academy and find a path that was a little easier because of him. Humanity was only beginning to find its place among the stars. There would be more challenges ahead, more prejudice to overcome, more enemies to face. But Danny Cole had proven something important on that night in the maintenance tunnels. Humans were not monsters. They were something more complex, more dangerous, and more noble than the galaxy had ever imagined. They were survivors who chose compassion, warriors who chose mercy, predators who had learned that the greatest strength was knowing when not to use it. The academy corridor stretched out before him, filled with aliens from 100 worlds. Danny Cole walked among them with his head held high, ready for whatever came next. The Deathworlder had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.